we embrace Juneteenth. It sounds good to say that we celebrate Juneteenth, but how do we do it? And I think when we ask the question that this exhibition asks, what is freedom? I think this is a question that, as you did, there would be varying responses if all of us got into a conversation about how we define freedom, how we define what it means to be American. And I think that looking at that, my comments about this question is really that when I think about it from a historical perspective as a historian, that I feel that African descended people in America have been answering and grappling with the question of freedom, the question of what it means to be American for 400 plus years, right? Since the arrival of African people. But I think what we have missed in this country are the very clear ways in which African descended people have envisioned freedom, have articulated freedom, have defined freedom in such powerful ways, whether it has been through speeches, whether it's been through texts and scholarship, whether it's been through art. And I think that is the most powerful thing about this exhibit, is that you have 30 interpretations in this perspective. And you have to grapple with that, because freedom is about choice. It is about not being bound and confined. It is about being able to be self-defined, self-determined, right? Those are markers of freedom. And we could probably flesh it out even more. But these are also concepts that particularly African descended people have tried to grapple with, have not had access to, still don't have access to. And I think that is what is so important about this exhibit, that it allows us to approach questions, these questions, and look at the historical record of how we think about it, how African descended people have addressed these questions, fought for these questions, tried to answer these questions in profound ways, but then also considers the contemporary moment that we're in, where we're still addressing these questions and defining these questions, and looking at how, particularly through art, we can transport ourselves to a free space. We can think about these questions in a more deep way through the medium and vehicle of art. And that's what I'm so excited about in terms of this conversation, and being able to walk through the exhibition. Just
understand that. I can sympathize with that. I have experienced that as an American, right? Saying to myself, you know, what exactly is freedom? I would say that I've experienced moments of freedom. And I want to thank this museum for giving me one of those moments, to be able to experience freedom. I find freedom in curating. I find freedom in art. And I find freedom when people listen to my ideals. And this museum listened to my ideals. And I have crazy ideals, or should I say, elaborate ideals. And so my ideal and my co-curators went along with it, went along for a ride, was to analyze artists through their zodiac signs. And I have been wanting to do this. I have pitched this to several museums. And this is the first museum that I was like, you know something? we're gonna go with it. I was like, what? I was on Zoom and I was like, you know, like shaking in my chair, right? Because I was just like, wow, they're gonna go with this. But I thought, what a phenomenal way to analyze artists, because I'm a Capricorn, and I am really a Capricorn. Everything you read about a Capricorn, I'm it. I am that, okay? And so I thought, what a phenomenal way to analyze artists in their art through their zodiac signs. And perhaps we can learn something from the constellations about ourselves and about artists and about history through zodiac signs. So I want to thank this museum for allowing me the opportunity to fill a moment of freedom. Thank you.
Freedom. There are practices that allow access. There are practices that allow connection. There are practices that allow us to see ourselves and to be seen in the way that we want to. And what I love, Brittney, what you said about this exhibit and how these artists in particular grapple with that question of access to self-identification, to create the selves in the way they wanted to be seen, and the ability of us to work together on this project as a practice of freedom, of being kind of outside of boxes. I think that in some ways my work as a choreographer allows me to enter into this practice in a little bit different way, how I see the artistic practice, and that as a mode of being in the world, a way of constructing yourself on a daily basis. That to me is a practice of freedom. And the capacity to do that, and to do that as a collective, and to think about that as a community is just a wonderful thing and so appropriate for this time of Juneteenth, of celebrating freedom in all of the many ways that we think about it, that I can think about it, that we can think about it when we are in conversation. And that's one of the other really exciting things about this opportunity, is that we got to bounce our ideas off of one another. So I have my worldview, you have yours, and we allow those to kind of come together in interesting ways so that we could see something we might not have seen otherwise. And so I'm a Scorpio. Thank you. And I loved this idea of signs. And for me, signs and wonders, I kind of jumped off of that and started thinking about the idea of signifying as a sort of expressive practice in the Black community, of saying something without quite saying it. Mm-hmm. And in some ways that was insisting on a little bit of freedom when it wasn't given to you.
Wow.